Welcome! Let's dive into the vibrant heart of Hong Kong. Imagine a place where ancient traditions dance with futuristic skylines, a city that pulses with an energy unlike any other. That's Hong Kong for you. A captivating blend of East and West, a true crossroads of culture. From the bustling street markets overflowing with tantalizing aromas and colorful wares, to the serene temples offering moments of quiet reflection, every corner tells a story. Think about the sheer diversity of experiences waiting to be discovered. You can ascend to breathtaking viewpoints for panoramic vistas that stretch across the harbor and beyond, or wander through lush green hills that offer a surprising escape from the urban buzz. The culinary scene alone is a journey in itself, a testament to the city's global influences, offering everything from Michelin-starred masterpieces to humble, yet incredibly delicious, street food. But beyond the iconic sights and flavors, what truly makes Hong Kong special is its spirit. It's a city of resilience, innovation, and a deep sense of community. It's a place where people from all walks of life come together, creating a dynamic tapestry of life that is constantly evolving. Exploring Hong Kong is an invitation to open your senses, embrace the unexpected, and connect with a culture that is both deeply rooted and forward-looking. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Hong Kong. We hope it's inspired you to discover its magic for yourself. If you enjoyed this, consider following along for more journeys. Hong Kong is a special administrative region of the People's Republic of China (PRC). Situated on China's southern coast just south of Shenzhen, it consists of Hong Kong Island, Kowloon, and the New Territories. With 7.5 million residents in a 1,114 square kilometer per 130 square miles territory, Hong Kong is the fourth most densely populated region in the world. Hong Kong was established as a colony of the British Empire after the Qing dynasty ceded Hong Kong Island in 1841 to 1842 as a consequence of losing the First Opium War. The colony expanded to the Kowloon Peninsula in 1860 and was further extended when the United Kingdom obtained a 99-year lease of the New Territories in 1898. Hong Kong was occupied by Japan from 1941 to 1945 during World War II. The territory was handed over from the United Kingdom to China in 1997. Hong Kong maintains separate governing and economic systems from that of mainland China under the principle of one country, two systems. Originally a sparsely populated area of farming and fishing villages, 1718. Hong Kong is now one of the world's most significant financial centers and commercial ports. Hong Kong is the world's third-ranked global financial center behind New York City and London, ninth largest exporter and eighth largest importer. Its currency, the Hong Kong dollar, is the ninth most traded currency in the world. Home to the second highest number of billionaires of any city in the world, Hong Kong has the second largest number of ultra-high net worth individuals. 1920, the city has one of the highest per capita incomes in the world. Although severe income inequality still exists among the population, Hong Kong is the city with the most skyscrapers in the world, even though its housing is consistently in high demand. Hong Kong is a highly developed territory and has a Human Development Index (HDI) of 0.955, ranking 8th in the world and currently the only place in Asia to be in the top 10. The city has the highest life expectancy in the world and a public transport usage exceeding 90%. The name of the territory, first Romanized as Hong Kong in 1780, 23 originally referred to a small inlet located between Aberdeen Island and the southern coast of Hong Kong Island. Aberdeen was an initial point of contact between British sailors and local fishermen. 24. Although the source of the Romanized name is unknown, it is generally believed to be an early phonetic rendering of the Cantonese or Tanka Cantonese phrase Huang Gang. The name translates as fragrant harbor or incense harbor. 2120 to 25 fragrant may refer to the sweet taste of the harbor's freshwater influx from the Pearl River or to the odor from incense factories lining the coast of northern Kowloon. The incense was stored near Aberdeen Harbour for export before Victoria Harbour was developed. 25. Sir John Davis, the second colonial governor, offered an alternative origin. Davis said that the name derived from Hunki Ang, red torrent, reflecting the color of soil over which a waterfall on the island flowed. 26. The simplified name. Hong Kong was frequently used by 1810. 27. The name was also commonly written as the single word Hong Kong until 1926, when the government officially adopted the two-word name. 28. Some corporations founded during the early colonial era still keep this name, including Hong Kong Land, Hong Kong Electric Company, Hong Kong and Shanghai Hotels, and the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation HSBC. 2930. Earliest known human traces in what is now called Hong Kong are dated by some to 35,000 and 39,000 years ago during the Paleolithic period. The claim is based on an archaeological investigation in Wong Tai Tung, Sai Kung in 2003. The archaeological works revealed napstone tools from deposits that were dated using optical luminescence dating. 31. During the Middle Neolithic period, about 6,000 years ago, the region had been widely occupied by humans. 30. To Neolithic to Bronze Age Hong Kong settlers were. Early inhabitants are believed to be Austronesians in the Middle Neolithic period and later the Yu people. 32. As hinted by the archaeological works in Shaha, Sai Kung, rice cultivation had been introduced since late Neolithic period. 33. Bronze Age Hong Kong featured coarse pottery, hard pottery, quartz and stone jewelry, as well as small bronze implements. 30. To the Qin dynasty incorporated the Hong Kong area into China for the first time into 14 BCE, after conquering the indigenous Baiyu. 34. The region was consolidated under the Nanyue Kingdom, a predecessor state of Vietnam, after the Qin collapse. 35. And recaptured by China after the Han conquest. 36. During the Mongol conquest of China in the 13th century, the southern Song court was briefly located in modern-day Kowloon City, the Sung Wong Toi site, before its final defeat in the 1279 Battle of Ya Men by the Yuan dynasty. 37. By the end of the Yuan dynasty, 7 large families had settled in the region and owned most of the land. Settlers from nearby provinces migrated to Kowloon throughout the Ming dynasty. 38. The earliest known European visitor was Portuguese explorer Jorge Alves, who arrived in 1513. 39. 40 Portuguese merchants established a trading post called Tamao in Hong Kong waters and began regular trade with southern China. Although the traders were expelled after military clashes in the 1520s, 41 Portuguese-Chinese trade relations were re-established by 1549. Portugal acquired a permanent lease for Macau in 1887. 42. After the Qing conquest, maritime trade was banned under the Haijin policies. From 1661 to 1683, the population of most of the area forming present-day Hong Kong was cleared under the Great Clearance, turning the region into a wasteland. 43. The Kangxi Emperor lifted the maritime trade prohibition, allowing foreigners to enter Chinese ports in 1684. 40. For Qing authorities established the Canton system in 1757 to regulate trade more strictly, restricting non-Russian ships to the port of Canton. 45. Although European demand for Chinese commodities like tea, silk, and porcelain was high, Chinese interest in European manufactured goods was insignificant, so that Chinese goods could only be bought with precious metals. To reduce the trade imbalance, the British sold large amounts of Indian opium to China. Faced with a drug crisis, Qing officials pursued ever more aggressive actions to halt the opium trade. 46. Main article, British Hong Kong in 1868, photographed by John Thomson in 1839. The Dao Guang Emperor rejected proposals to legalize and tax opium and ordered Imperial Commissioner Lin Zexu to eradicate the opium trade. The commissioner destroyed opium stockpiles and halted all foreign trade, 47 triggering a British military response and the First Opium War. The king surrendered early in the war and ceded Hong Kong Island in the Convention of Twente. British forces began controlling Hong Kong shortly after the signing of the convention from the 26th of January 1848. However, both countries were dissatisfied and did not ratify the agreement. 49. After more than a year of further hostilities, Hong Kong Island was formally ceded to the United Kingdom in the 1840 Treaty of Nanking. 50. Administrative infrastructure was quickly built by early 1842, but piracy, disease, and hostile king policies initially prevented the government from attracting commerce. Conditions on the island improved during the Taiping Rebellion in the 1850s, when many Chinese refugees, including wealthy merchants, fled mainland turbulence and settled in the colony. 17 further tensions between the British and King over the opium trade escalated into the Second Opium War. The King were again defeated and forced to give up Kowloon Peninsula and Stonecutters Island in the Convention of Peking. 51. By the end of this war, Hong Kong had evolved from a transient colonial outpost into a major intrepid. Rapid economic improvement during the 1850s attracted foreign investment as potential stakeholders became more confident in Hong Kong's future. 50. To the colony was further expanded in 1898 when the United Kingdom obtained a 99-year lease of the new territories. 53. The University of Hong Kong was established in 1911 as the territory's first institution of higher education. 54. Kai Tak Airport began operation in 1924, and the colony avoided a prolonged economic downturn after the 1925-26 Canton Hong Kong strike of 55-56. At the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War in 1937, Governor Geoffrey Northcote declared Hong Kong a neutral zone to safeguard its status as a free port. 57. The colonial government prepared for a possible attack, evacuating all British women and children in 1940. 58. The Imperial Japanese Army attacked Hong Kong on the 8th of December 1941, the same morning as its attack on Pearl Harbor. 59. Hong Kong was occupied by Japan for almost 4 years before the British resumed control on the 30th of August 1945. 60. The flag of British Hong Kong from 1959 to 1997 Peking Road in Tsim Sha Tsui in 1971. Its population rebounded quickly after the war, as skilled Chinese migrants fled from the Chinese Civil War and more refugees crossed the border. When the Chinese Communist Party took control of mainland China in 1949, Hong Kong became the first of the 4 Asian tiger economies to industrialize during the 1950s. 62. With a rapidly increasing population, the colonial government attempted reforms to improve infrastructure and public services. The Public Housing Estate Program, Independent Commission Against Corruption, and Mass Transit Railway were all established during the post-war decades to provide safer housing, integrity in the civil service, and more reliable transportation. 63. For nevertheless, widespread public discontent resulted in multiple protests from the 1950s to 1980s, including pro-Republic of China and pro-Chinese Communist Party protests. In the 1967 Hong Kong riots, pro-PRC protesters clashed with the British colonial government. As many as 51 were killed and 800 who were injured in the violence, including dozens killed by the Royal Hong Kong Police via beatings and shootings. 65. Although the territory's competitiveness in manufacturing gradually declined because of rising labor and property costs, it transitioned to a service-based economy. By the early 1990s, Hong Kong had established itself as a global financial center and shipping hub. 66. The colony faced an uncertain future as the end of the new territory's lease approached, and Governor Maury McLehose raised the question of Hong Kong's status with Deng Xiaoping in 1979. 67 diplomatic negotiations with China resulted in the 1980 Sino-British Joint Declaration, in which the United Kingdom agreed to the handover of the colony in 1997, and China would guarantee Hong Kong's economic and political systems for 50 years after the handover. 68. The impending handover triggered a wave of mass emigration as residents feared an erosion of civil rights, the rule of law, and quality of life. 69. Over 500,000 people left the territory during the peak migration period, from 1987 to 1996. 70. The Legislative Council became a fully elected legislature for the first time in 1995 and extensively expanded its functions and organizations throughout the last years of the colonial rule. 71. The handover of Hong Kong to China was at midnight on the 1st of July 1997, after 156 years of British rule. 72. Immediately after the handover, Hong Kong was severely affected by several crises. The Hong Kong government was forced to use substantial foreign exchange reserves to maintain the Hong Kong dollar's currency peg during the 1997 Asian financial crisis. 61. And the recovery from this was muted by an H5N1 avian flu outbreak. 73. And a housing surplus. 74. This was followed by the 2003 SARS epidemic, during which the territory experienced its most serious economic downturn. 75. Chinese communists portrayed the return of Hong Kong as a key moment in the PRC's rise to great power status. 76. 51 political debates after the handover have centered around the region's democratic development and the Chinese central government's adherence to the one country, two systems principle. After reversal of the last colonial era Legislative Council democratic reforms following the handover. 77. The regional government unsuccessfully attempted to enact national security legislation pursuant to Article 23 of the Basic Law. 78. The central government decision to implement nominee pre-screening before allowing chief executive elections triggered a series of protests in 2014, which became known as the Umbrella Revolution. 79. Discrepancies in the electoral registry and disqualification of elected legislators after the 2016 Legislative Council elections 80, 81, 82, and enforcement of national law in the West Kowloon high-speed railway station raised further concerns about the region's autonomy. 83. In June 2019, mass protests erupted in response to a proposed extradition amendment bill permitting the extradition of fugitives to mainland China. The protests are the largest in Hong Kong's history, 84, with organizers claiming to have attracted more than 3 million Hong Kong residents. The Hong Kong regional government and Chinese central government responded to the protests with a number of administrative measures to quell dissent. In June 2020, the Legislative Council passed the National Anthem Ordinance, which criminalized insults to the national anthem of China. 85. The Chinese central government meanwhile enacted the Hong Kong National Security Law to help quell protests in the region. 86. 9 months later, in March 2021, the Chinese central government introduced amendments to Hong Kong's electoral system, which included the reduction of directly elected seats in the Legislative Council and the requirement that all candidates be vetted and approved by a Beijing-appointed candidate eligibility review committee. 87. In May 2023, the Legislative Council also introduced legislation to reduce the number of directly elected seats in the district councils, and a district council eligibility review committee was similarly established to vet candidates. 88, 89, 90. In terms of international connectedness, as of 2024, the city was one of 8 worldwide that was classified as an Alpha Plus city by the Globalization and World Cities Research Network. 91. Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China, with executive, legislative, and judicial powers devolved from the national government. 92. The Sino-British Joint Declaration provided for economic and administrative continuity through the handover. 68. Resulting in an executive-led governing system largely inherited from the territory's history as a British colony. 93. Under these terms and the one country, two systems principle, the basic law of Hong Kong is the regional constitution. 94. The regional government is composed of three branches. Executive. The chief executive is responsible for enforcing regional law. 93. Can force reconsideration of legislation. 95. And appoints executive council members and principal officials. 96. Acting with the executive council, the chief executive and council can propose new bills, issue subordinate legislation, and has authority to dissolve the legislature. 97. In states of emergency or public danger, the chief executive and council is further empowered to enact any regulation necessary to restore public order. 98. Legislature. The unicameral legislative council enacts regional law, approves budgets, and has the power to impeach a sitting chief executive. 99. Judiciary. The Hong Kong Court of Final Appeal and lower courts interpret laws and overturn those inconsistent with the basic law. 100. Judges are appointed by the chief executive on the advice of a recommendation commission. 101. The chief executive is the head of government and serves for a maximum of 2 5-year terms. The State Council, led by the Premier of China, appoints the chief executive after nomination by the Election Committee, which is composed of 1,500 business, community, and government leaders. 100 to 103. 100 for the Legislative Council has 90 members, each serving a 4-year term. 20 are directly elected from geographical constituencies, 30 represent functional constituencies FC, and 40 are chosen by an election committee consisting of representatives appointed by the Chinese central government. 105. FC councillors are selected from limited electorates, representing sectors of the economy or special interest groups. 106. Geographical constituency elected members are chosen by single non-transferable vote SNTV, yielding to candidates per GC. The 30 limited electorate functional constituencies fill their seats using first-past-the-post or instant runoff voting. 106. 22 political parties had representatives elected to the Legislative Council in the 2016 election. 107. These parties have aligned themselves into 3 ideological groups: the pro-Beijing camp, the current government, the pro-democracy camp, and localist groups. 108. The Chinese Communist Party does not have an official political presence in Hong Kong, and its members do not run in local elections. 109. Hong Kong is represented in the National People's Congress by 36 deputies chosen through an electoral college and 203 delegates in the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, appointed by the central government. 8. The gray dome and front gable of a granite neoclassical building, with a skyscraper in the background against a clear blue sky. The Court of Final Appeal building formerly housed the Supreme Court and the Legislative Council. There are major differences between the legal system of Hong Kong and rest of China. 100. Its judicial system is based on common law, continuing the legal tradition established during British rule. 110. Local courts may refer to precedents set in English law and overseas jurisprudence. 111. However, mainland criminal procedure law applies to cases investigated by the Office for Safeguarding National Security of the CPG in the HKSAR. 112. Interpretative and amending power over the basic law and jurisdiction over acts of state lie, with the central authority making regional courts ultimately subordinate to the mainland socialist civil law system. 113. Decisions made by the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress override any territorial judicial process. 114. Furthermore, in circumstances where the Standing Committee declares a state of emergency in Hong Kong, the State Council may enforce national law in the region. 115. The territory's jurisdictional independence is most apparent in its immigration and taxation policies. The Immigration Department issues passports for permanent residents, which differ from those of the mainland or Macau. 116, and the region maintains a regulated border with the rest of the country. All travelers between Hong Kong and mainland China and Macau must pass through border controls, regardless of nationality. 117. Mainland Chinese residents do not have right of abode in Hong Kong and are subject to immigration controls. 118. Public finances are handled separately from the national government. Taxes levied in Hong Kong do not fund the central authority. 119. 120. The Hong Kong garrison of the People's Liberation Army is responsible for the region's defense. 121. Although the chairman of the Central Military Commission is Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. 122. The regional government may request assistance from the garrison. 123. Hong Kong residents are not required to perform military service, and current law has no provision for local enlistment, so its defense is composed entirely of non-Hong Kongers. 120. For the central government and Ministry of Foreign Affairs handle diplomatic matters, but Hong Kong retains the ability to maintain separate economic and cultural relations with foreign nations. 125. The territory actively participates in the World Trade Organization, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, the International Olympic Committee, and many United Nations agencies. 126, 127, 128. The regional government maintains trade offices in Greater China and other nations. 129. The imposition of the Hong Kong national security law by the central government in Beijing in June 2020 resulted in the suspension of bilateral extradition treaties by the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Finland, and Ireland. 130. The United States ended its preferential economic and trade treatment of Hong Kong in July 2020 because it was no longer able to distinguish Hong Kong as a separate entity from the People's Republic of China. 130-131. In 2024, the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance was passed by the Legislative Council to grant officials the power to prosecute crimes such as treason and insurrection. Critics state that this expansion will give more powers to crack down on opposition to the central government of China and the Hong Kong government, as well as strike a lasting blow to the partial autonomy the city had been promised by China in the Sino-British Joint Declaration. 1. Hong Kong's administrative divisions are divided into 3 levels: areas, districts, and sub-districts. 133. Hong Kong is administratively divided into 3 areas: Hong Kong Island, Kowloon, and the New Territories. They are further divided into 18 districts. The area of Hong Kong Island has 4 districts, the area of Kowloon has 5 districts, and the area of the New Territories has 9 districts. 133-130. For each district is represented by a district council. The district councils advise the government on local issues such as public facility provisioning, community program maintenance, cultural promotion, and environmental policy. 135-136-89. As of 2024, there are a total of 470 district council seats, 88 of which are directly elected. 137. In May 2023, the government proposed reforms to the district council electoral system, which further cut the number of directly elected seats from 450 to 288, and total seats from 479 to 470. A requirement that district council candidates be vetted and approved by the District Council Eligibility Review Committee was also proposed. The Legislative Council approved the reforms in July 2023. 88-89-90. Hong Kong is governed by a hybrid regime that is not fully representative of the population. Legislative Council members elected by functional constituencies composed of professional and special interest groups are accountable to these narrow corporate electorates and not the general public. This electoral arrangement has guaranteed a pro-Beijing camp majority in the legislature since the handover. Similarly, the chief executive is selected by establishment politicians and corporate members of the election committee rather than directly elected. 138. Despite universal suffrage being established as ultimate goals for the election of the chief executive and all members of the Legislative Council in Articles 45 and 68 of the Basic Law, 139, the legislature is only partially directly elected, and the executive continues to be nominated by an unrepresentative body. 138. The government has been repeatedly petitioned to introduce direct elections for these positions, but has not introduced these direct elections as of 2024. 141 ethnic minorities, except those of European ancestry, have marginal representation in government and often experience discrimination in housing, education, and employment. 143 employment vacancies and public service appointments frequently have language requirements which minority job seekers do not meet, and language education resources remain inadequate for Chinese learners. 140 for 145 foreign domestic helpers, mostly women from the Philippines and Indonesia, have little protection under regional law. 146. Although they live and work in Hong Kong, these workers are not treated as ordinary residents and do not have the right of abode in the territory. 147. Sex trafficking is also an issue. 148. Local, mainland Chinese, and foreign women have been trafficked for sex in brothels, homes, and businesses in the city. 149. 150. The Joint Declaration guarantees the basic law of Hong Kong for 50 years after the handover. 68. It does not specify how Hong Kong will be governed after 2047, and the central government's role in determining the territory's future system of government is the subject of political debate and speculation. Hong Kong's political and judicial systems may be integrated with China's at that time, or the territory may continue to be administered separately. 151. 152. However, in response to large-scale protests in 2019 and 2020, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress passed the controversial Hong Kong National Security Law. 153. The law criminalizes secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign elements and establishes the Office for Safeguarding National Security of the CPG in the HKSAR, an investigative office under Central People's Government Authority immune from HKSAR jurisdiction. Some of the aforementioned acts were previously considered protected speech under Hong Kong law. 112. 154. The United Kingdom considers the law to be a serious violation of the Joint Declaration. 155. In October 2020, the Hong Kong police arrested 7 pro-democracy politicians over tussles with pro-Beijing politicians in the Legislative Council in May. They were charged with contempt and interfering with members of the council, while none of the pro-Beijing lawmakers were detained. 156 annual commemorations of the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests and massacre were also canceled, amidst fears of violating the national security law. 157. In March 2021, the Chinese central government unilaterally changed Hong Kong's electoral system and established the Candidate Eligibility Review Committee, which would be tasked with screening and evaluating political candidates for their patriotism, effectively crushing the remainder of the pro-democracy camp. 87. In February 2024, Jia Baolong, the head of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, said that the one country, two systems principle would be kept permanently. 158. Hong Kong is on China's southern coast, 60 kilometers 37 miles east of Macau, on the east side of the mouth of the Pearl River estuary. It is surrounded by the South China Sea on all sides except the north, which neighbors the Guangdong city of Shenzhen along the Shamchuan River. The territory is 1,110.18 square kilometers for 128.6 for square miles, 159 area, 2,750 for 0.97 square kilometers, 159, if the maritime area is included, consists of Hong Kong Island, the Kowloon Peninsula, the New Territories, Lantau Island, and over 200 other islands. Of the total area, 1,073 square kilometers, 414 square miles, is land, and 35 square kilometers, 14 square miles, is water. The territory's highest point is Taimoshan, 957 meters, 3,140 feet above sea level. 161 urban development is concentrated on the Kowloon Peninsula, Hong Kong Island, and in new towns throughout the New Territories. 162 much of this is built on reclaimed land, 70 square kilometers, 27 square miles, 6% of the total land, or about 25% of developed space in the territory, is reclaimed from the sea. 163 undeveloped terrain is hilly to mountainous, with very little flat land, and consists mostly of grassland, woodland, shrubland, or farmland. 160 for 165, about 40% of the remaining land area, is country parks and nature reserves. 166. The territory has a diverse ecosystem. Over 3,000 species of vascular plants occur in the region, 300 of which are native to Hong Kong, and thousands of insect, avian, and marine species. 167-168 Climate. Hong Kong has a humid subtropical climate, characteristic of southern China, despite being located south of the Tropic of Cancer, although closely bordering on a tropical climate. Summers are long, hot and humid, with occasional showers and thunderstorms and warm air from the southwest. The humid nature of Hong Kong exacerbates the warmth of summer. Typhoons occur most often then, sometimes resulting in floods or landslides. Also rarely occurring are waterspouts and tornadoes, which occurred at Hong Kong International Airport on the 26th of September 2020 and at Victoria Harbour on the 28th of September 2024. 169. 170 winters are short, mild, and usually sunny at the beginning, becoming cloudy towards February. Frequent cold fronts bring strong, cooling winds from the north and occasionally result in chilly weather. Autumn is the sunniest season, whilst spring is generally cloudy. 171. Snowfall has been extremely rare in Hong Kong. The last reported instance was on Taimoshan in 1975. 172. Hong Kong averages 1,709 hours of sunshine per year. 173. Historic temperature extremes at the Hong Kong Observatory are 36.6 C 97.9 degrees Fahrenheit on the 22nd of August 2017 and 0.0 C 30.0 degrees Fahrenheit on the 18th of January 1893. Record highest daily minimum temperature, there was 30.1 C 86.2 degrees Fahrenheit on the 18th of August 1990, and the lowest daily maximum temperature, there was 3.2 C 37.8 degrees Fahrenheit on the 16th of January 1893. The highest and lowest recorded temperatures in all of Hong Kong are 39.0 C 100 to F at Wetland Park on the 22nd of August 2017, 177, and 6.0 C 21.2 degrees Fahrenheit at Taimoshan on the 24th of January 2016. Hong Kong has the world's largest number of skyscrapers, with 554 towers taller than 150 meters per 190 feet, 184, and the third largest number of high-rise buildings in the world. 185. The lack of available space restricted development to high-density residential tenements and commercial complexes packed closely together on buildable land. 186. Single-family detached homes are uncommon and generally only found in outlying areas. 187. The International Commerce Center and to International Finance Center are the tallest buildings in Hong Kong and are among the tallest in the Asia-Pacific region. 188. Other distinctive buildings lining the Hong Kong Island skyline include the HSBC main building, the anemometer-top triangular Central Plaza, the circular Hopewell Center, and the sharp-edged Bank of China Tower. 189-190 demand for new construction has contributed to frequent demolition of older buildings, freeing space for modern high-rises. 191. However, many examples of European and Lingnan architecture are still found throughout the territory. Older government buildings are examples of colonial architecture. The 1846 Flagstaff House, the former residence of the commander of the British forces in Hong Kong, is the oldest Western-style building in Hong Kong. 192. Some buildings, such as the Court of Final Appeal building and the Hong Kong Observatory, retain their original functions, and others have been adapted and reused. The former Marine Police headquarters was redeveloped into a commercial and retail complex. 193. And Bethany, built in 1875 as a sanatorium, houses the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. 194. The Tin Hau Temple, dedicated to the sea goddess Mazu, originally built in 1012 and rebuilt in 1266, is the territory's oldest existing structure. 195. The Pingshan Heritage Trail has architectural examples from several imperial Chinese dynasties, including the Sui Sing Lao Pagoda, Hong Kong's only remaining pagoda. 196. Tong Lao, mixed-use tenement buildings constructed during the colonial era, blended southern Chinese architectural styles with European influences. These were especially prolific during the immediate post-war period, when many were rapidly built to house large numbers of Chinese migrants. 197 examples include Louis Sangchun, the Blue House in Wan Chai, and the Shanghai Street Shop Houses in Mongkok. Mass-produced public housing estates, built since the 1960s, are mainly constructed in modernist style. 198. The Census and Statistics Department estimated Hong Kong's population at 7,413,070 in 2021. The overwhelming majority, 91.6%, is Han Chinese, 6 most of whom are Taishanese, Teochew, Hakka, and other Cantonese peoples. 200, 201, 202. The remaining 8.4% are non-ethnic Chinese minorities, primarily Filipinos, Indonesians, and South Asians. 6,203. However, most Filipinos and Indonesians in Hong Kong are short-term workers. According to a 2021 thematic report by the Hong Kong government, after excluding foreign domestic helpers, the real number of non-Chinese ethnic minorities in the city was 301,344, or 4% of Hong Kong's population. 200 for about half the population have some form of British nationality, a legacy of colonial rule. 3.4 million residents of British national overseas status, and 260,000 British citizens live in the territory. 205. The vast majority also hold Chinese nationality, automatically granted to all ethnic Chinese residents at the handover. 206. Headline population density exceeds 7,060 people, square kilometer, and is the 4th highest in the world. 207. Wong Tai Sin Temple is dedicated to the Taoist deity Wong Tai Sin. Among the religious population, the traditional 3 teachings of China, Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism, have the most adherents, 20%, followed by Christianity 12%, and Islam 4%. 208. Followers of other religions, including Sikhism, Hinduism, and Judaism, generally originate from regions where their religion predominates. 208. Life expectancy in Hong Kong was 81.3 years for males and 87.2 years for females in 2022, one of the highest in the world. 209. The birth rate in 2023 was 0.751 per woman of childbearing age. 210. Cancer, pneumonia, heart disease, cerebrovascular disease, and accidents are the territory's 5 leading causes of death. 211. The universal public health care system is funded by general tax revenue, and treatment is highly subsidized. On average, 95% of health care costs are covered by the government. 212. The city has a severe amount of income inequality, 213, which has risen since the handover, as the region's aging population has gradually added to the number of non-working people. 214. Although median household income steadily increased during the decade to 2021, the wage gap remained high. 215. The 90th percentile of earners receive 41% of all income. 215. The city has the most billionaires per capita, with 1 billionaire per 109,657 people. 216, as well as the second highest number of billionaires of any city in the world. 217, the highest number of billionaires of any city in Asia, and the largest concentration of ultra-high net worth individuals of any city in the world. 218. 219, despite government efforts to reduce the growing disparity, 220 median income for the top 10% of earners is 57 times that of the bottom 10%. 221. 222, one of the world's most significant financial centers and commercial ports. 223. Hong Kong has a market economy focused on services, characterized by low taxation, minimal government market intervention, and an established international financial market. 224. It is the world's 38th largest economy, with a nominal GDP of approximately 407 billion United States dollars. 225. Hong Kong is highly developed and ranks fourth on the UN Human Development Index. 160. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange is the seventh largest in the world, with a market capitalization of 30.4 trillion Hong Kong dollars, 3.87 trillion United States dollars, as of December 2018. 226. Hong Kong was ranked as the 15th most innovative territory in the 2025 Global Innovation Index, 227, 228, and third in the Global Financial Centers Index, 229. The city was sometimes referred to as Silicon Harbor in the 1990s, a nickname derived from Silicon Valley in California. 230. Hong Kong is the ninth largest trading entity in exports and eighth largest in imports, 2021. 231. 232, trading more goods in value than its gross domestic product. 231. 232. Over half of its cargo throughput consists of transshipments, goods traveling through Hong Kong. Products from mainland China account for about 40% of that traffic. 233. The city's location allowed it to establish a transportation and logistics infrastructure, which includes the world's seventh busiest container port, 234, and the busiest airport for international cargo, 235. The territory's largest export markets are mainland China and the United States. 160. Hong Kong is a key part of the 21st century maritime Silk Road. 236. It has little arable land and few natural resources, importing most of its food and raw materials. More than 90% of Hong Kong's food is imported, including nearly all of its meat and rice. 237. Agricultural activity is 0.1% of GDP and consists of growing premium food and flower varieties. Although the territory had one of Asia's largest manufacturing economies during the latter half of the colonial era, Hong Kong's economy is now dominated by the service sector. The sector generates 92.7% of economic output, with the public sector accounting for about 10%. 239. Between 1961 and 1997, Hong Kong's gross domestic product increased by a factor of 180, and per capita GDP increased by a factor of 87. 240. 241. The territory's GDP relative to mainland China's peaked at 27% in 1993. It fell to less than 3% in 2017, as the mainland developed and liberalized its economy. 242. Economic and infrastructure integration with China has increased significantly since the 1978 start of market liberalization on the mainland. Since resumption of cross-boundary train service in 1979, many rail and road links have been improved and constructed, facilitating trade between regions. 244. The Closer Economic Partnership Arrangement formalized a policy of free trade between the two areas, with each jurisdiction pledging to remove remaining obstacles to trade and cross-boundary investment. 245. A similar economic partnership with Macau details the liberalization of trade between the special administrative regions. 246. Chinese companies have expanded their economic presence in the territory since the handover. Mainland firms represent over half of the Hang Seng Index value, up from 5% in 1997. 247 to 148. Large, empty room, with many desks and computer terminals. Former trading floor of the Hong Kong Stock Exchanges, the mainland liberalized its economy. Hong Kong's shipping industry faced intense competition from other Chinese ports. Half of China's trade goods were routed through Hong Kong in 1997, dropping to about 13% by 2015. 249. The territory's minimal taxation, common law system, and civil service attract overseas corporations wishing to establish a presence in Asia. 249. The city has the second highest number of corporate headquarters in the Asia-Pacific region. 250. Hong Kong is a gateway for foreign direct investment in China, giving investors open access to mainland Chinese markets through direct links with the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock exchanges. The territory was the first market outside mainland China for renminbi-denominated bonds and is one of the largest hubs for offshore renminbi trading. 251. In November 2020, Hong Kong's financial services and the Treasury Bureau proposed a new law that will restrict cryptocurrency trading to professional investors only, leaving amateur traders, 93% of Hong Kong's trading population, out of the market. 252. The Hong Kong dollar, the local currency, is the 8th most traded currency in the world. 253. Due to extremely compact house sizes and the extremely high housing density, the city has the most expensive housing market in the world. 254. 255. 256. The government has had a passive role in the economy. Colonial governments had little industrial policy and implemented almost no trade controls. Under the doctrine of positive non-interventionism, post-war administrations deliberately avoided the direct allocation of resources. Active intervention was considered detrimental to economic growth. 257. While the economy transitioned to a service basis during the 1980s, 257 late colonial governments introduced interventionist policies. Post-handover administrations continued and expanded these programs, including export credit guarantees, a compulsory pension scheme, a minimum wage, anti-discrimination laws, and a state mortgage backer. 258. Tourism is a major part of the economy, accounting for 5% of GDP. 193. In 2016, 26.6 million visitors contributed to 158 billion Hong Kong dollars, 30.9 billion United States dollars to the territory, making Hong Kong the 14th most popular destination for international tourists. Needs update: it is the most popular Chinese city for tourists, receiving over 70% more visitors than its closest competitor, Macau. 259. The city is ranked as one of the most expensive cities for expatriates. 260. 261. However, since 2020, there has been a sharp decline in incoming visitors due to tight COVID-19 travel restrictions. Additionally, due to the closure of Russian airspace in 2022, multiple airlines decided to cease their operations in Hong Kong. 262. In an attempt to attract tourists back to Hong Kong, the Hong Kong government announced plans to give away 500,000 free airline tickets in 2023. 263. Hong Kong was the most visited city internationally in the Asia-Pacific region in 2023, with over 2 million more international visitors than its closest competitor, Bangkok. 264. Hong Kong has a highly developed, sophisticated transport network. Over 90% of the daily trips made by its residents are made with public transport, the highest percentage in the world. 265 The Octopus Card, a contactless smart payment card made for Hong Kong, is widely accepted on railways, trams, buses, and ferries, and can be used for payment in most retail stores. 266 alternative payments, such as Apple Pay, Alipay, MasterCard, and Visa, have also been gradually introduced to public transports. 267, 268, 269, 270, 271, the Peak Tram, Hong Kong's first public transport system, has provided funicular rail transport between Central and Victoria Peak since 1888. 270 to the Central and Western District has an extensive system of escalators and moving pavements, which being the mid-levels escalator, the world's longest outdoor covered escalator system. 273 Hong Kong Tramways tram network covers a portion of Hong Kong Island, covering from Kennedy Town to Shau Kei Wan, with a branch to Happy Valley. It operates 6 routes and has had a ridership of 42,558 in 2022. 274. It began servicing Hong Kong since 1904. 276. Hong Kong Tramways currently holds the Guinness World Record as the largest double-decker tram fleet in service, certified on the 30th of July 2021. With a fleet of 165 double-decker trams, 277. The fleet of trams was mostly built by Hong Kong Tramways. The Mass Transit Railway MTR is an extensive passenger rail network, connecting 99 metro stations and 68 light trail stops throughout the territory. 278, 279, with a daily ridership of almost 5 million, the system serves 41% of all public transit passengers in the city. 280, and has an on-time rate of 99.9%. 281, cross-boundary train service to Shenzhen is offered by the East Rail Line, and longer-distance intercity trains to Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Beijing are operated from Hung Hom Station. 282. This train service has, however, been suspended since the outbreak of COVID-19 and officially closed by the State Council on the 31st of July 2024, as announced by the General Administration of Customs, citing that high-speed passenger trains have effectively met the travel needs of passengers between the mainland and Hong Kong. 283, 280 for 285. Connecting service to the National High-Speed Rail System is provided at West Kowloon Railway Station. 286. Although public transport systems handle most passenger traffic, there are over 500,000 private vehicles registered in Hong Kong. 287. Automobiles drive on the left, unlike in mainland China, because of the historical influence of the British Empire. 288. Vehicle traffic is extremely congested in urban areas, exacerbated by limited space to expand roads and an increasing number of vehicles. 289. More than 18,000 taxicabs, easily identifiable by their bright colors and taxi lights, are licensed to carry riders in the territory. 290. Unlicensed ride-hailing services, such as Uber, exist in Hong Kong as well, with some operating with licensed taxis to legitimize their business in ride-sharing. Unlicensed drivers have been targeted by the government and taxi drivers in the past, mainly due to the lack of third-party insurance on passengers and taxi drivers fearing the competition from drivers of these ride-hailing services. 291, 292. In 2024, the government looked into legalizing these services. 293 bus services operate more than 700 routes across the territory. 280, with smaller public light buses, also known as minibuses, serving areas standard buses do not reach as frequently or directly. 294, expressways and truck roads, organized with the Hong Kong Strategic Route and Exit Number System, connect all major areas of the territory. 295. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge provides a direct route to the western side of the Pearl River estuary. 240 for light rail train on a straight-away train on the Tung Chung Line. Hong Kong International Airport is the territory's primary airport, replacing Kai Tak International Airport that ended its operation in 1998. 296. Over 100 airlines operate flights from the airport, including locally based Cathay Pacific flag carrier, Hong Kong Airlines, low-cost airline HK Express, and cargo airline Air Hong Kong. 297. It was the 8th busiest airport by passenger traffic, 298 pre-COVID, and handles the most air cargo traffic in the world. 299. Most private recreational aviation traffic flies through Shek Kong Airfield, under the supervision of the Hong Kong Aviation Club. 300. The Star Ferry operates 2 lines across Victoria Harbour for its 53,000 daily passengers. 301. Ferries also serve outlying islands inaccessible by other means. Smaller kaita boats serve the most remote coastal settlements. 302. Ferry travel to Macau and mainland China is also available. 303. Junks, once common in Hong Kong waters, are no longer widely available and are used privately and for tourism. 304. The large size of the port gives Hong Kong the classification of large port metropolis. 305. Hong Kong generates most of its electricity locally. 306. The vast majority of this energy comes from fossil fuels, with 46% from coal and 47% from petroleum. 307. The rest is from other imports, including nuclear energy generated in mainland China. 308. Renewable sources account for a negligible amount of energy generated for the territory. 309. Small-scale wind power sources have been developed. 306. And a small number of private homes and public buildings have installed solar panels. 310. With few natural lakes and rivers, high population density, inaccessible groundwater sources, and extremely seasonal rainfall, the territory does not have a reliable source of fresh water. The Dong River in Guangdong supplies 70% of the city's water. 311. And the remaining demand is filled by harvesting rainwater locally. 312. Toilets in most built-up areas of the territory flush with seawater, which reduces freshwater use. 311. Broadband internet access is widely available, with 92.6% of households connected. Connections over fiber optic infrastructure are increasingly prevalent. 313. Contributing to the high regional average connection speed of 21.9 bit, the world's 4th fastest. 314. Mobile phone E is ubiquitous. 315. There are almost 22 million mobile phone accounts registered in Hong Kong. 316, which is almost triple the territory's population. Hong Kong is characterized as a hybrid of East and West. Traditional Chinese values emphasizing family and education blend with Western ideals, including economic liberty and the rule of law. 317. Although the vast majority of the population is ethnically Chinese, Hong Kong has developed a distinct identity. The territory diverged from the mainland through its long period of colonial administration and a different pace of economic, social, and cultural development. Mainstream culture was derived from immigrants originating from various parts of China. It was then influenced by British-style education, a separate political system, and the territory's rapid development during the late 20th century. 318-319, most migrants of that era fled poverty and war. Reflected in the prevailing attitude toward wealth, Hong Kongers would tend to link self-image and decision-making to material benefits. 320-321, residents' sense of local identity has increased post-handover. Polling in December 2022 had 32% of respondents identifying as Hong Kongers, 34.1% identifying as Hong Kongers in China, 45.9% purporting a mixed identity, 20.5% identifying as Chinese, and 11.9% identifying as Chinese in Hong Kong. 322. Although multi-generational and extended families are not unusual. 320. For spiritual concepts, such as Feng Shui, are observed. Large-scale construction projects often hire consultants to ensure proper building positioning and layout. The degree of its adherence to Feng Shui is believed to determine the success of a business. 189. Bagua mirrors are regularly used to deflect evil spirits. 325. And buildings often lack floor numbers with a 4. 326. The number has a similar sound to the word for die in Cantonese. 327. Food in Hong Kong is primarily based on Cantonese cuisine. Despite the territory's exposure to foreign influences and its residents' varied origins, rice is the staple food and is usually served plain with other dishes. 328. Freshness of ingredients is emphasized. Poultry and seafood are commonly sold live at wet markets, and ingredients are used as quickly as possible when still fresh. 329. There are up to 5 daily meals: breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, and siya. 330. Dim sum, as part of Yum Cha brunch, is a dining-out tradition with family and friends. Dishes include congee, cha siu bao, siu yuk, egg tarts, and mango pudding. Local versions of Western food are served at Cha Chan Teng Hong Kong-style cafes. Common Cha Chan Teng menu items include macaroni and soup, deep-fried French toast, and Hong Kong-style milk tea. 328. The predominant language today is Cantonese, a variety of Chinese originating in Guangzhou. It is spoken by 93.7% of the population, 88.2% as a first language, and 5.5% as a second language. 3. Slightly over half the population, 58.7%, speaks English, the other official language. 2. For 0.6% are native speakers, and 50.1% speak English as a second language. 3. Code switching. Mixing English and Cantonese in informal conversation is common among the bilingual population. 331. Post-handover governments have promoted Mandarin, which is currently about as prevalent as English. 54.2% of the population speak Mandarin, with 2.3% native speakers and 51.9% as a second language. 3. Traditional Chinese characters are used in writing, rather than the simplified characters used in the mainland. 332. Before the First Opium War, Hong Kong did not have significant Cantonese-speaking populations. Instead, the majority of people spoke Hakka varieties, though large areas with Wei-Taunese and Tanka speakers can be found in the northern New Territories and southern coastal areas respectively. Hong Kong Hakka is a variety of Neo-Hakka and belongs to the Mehui Hakka ZH subbranch of Yutai Hakka, ZH, making it closely related to Moyinese. 333. Wei-Taunese is a variety that is closely related to the Yu-Chinese varieties spoken in Bao'an and Dongguan, and was the primary language of the 5 great clans of the New Territories, brought into Hong Kong during the Song dynasty from Jiangxi. 330. For some of the native Yu-Chinese varieties were noticeably Hakka-influenced. 335. Smaller communities of Haklo speakers also existed, and many villages were multicultural. 330. For today, communities of speakers of other Chinese varieties, such as Teochew, Sheap, Hokkien, and Shanghainese, also live in Hong Kong. Southeast Asian languages, such as Tagalog and Malay Indonesian-speaking communities, also live in Hong Kong. Other minority languages with significant speaker bases in Hong Kong include French, Dutch, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, Hindustani, Japanese, and Korean, among others. 336. Hong Kong developed into a filmmaking hub during the late 1940s as a wave of Shanghai filmmakers migrated to the territory, and these movie veterans helped build the colony's entertainment industry over the next decade. 337. By the 1960s, The city was well known to overseas audiences through films such as The World of Suzy Wong. 338, when Bruce Lee's The Way of the Dragon was released in 1972. Local productions became popular outside Hong Kong. During the 1980s, films such as A Better Tomorrow, As Tears Go By, and Zoo Warriors from the Magic Mountain expanded global interest beyond martial arts films, locally made gangster films, romantic dramas, and supernatural fantasies became popular. 339 Hong Kong cinema continued to be internationally successful over the following decade with critically acclaimed dramas such as Farewell My Concubine, Till Live, and Chungking Express. The city's martial arts film roots are evident in the roles of the most prolific Hong Kong actors: Jackie Chan, Donnie Yen, Jet Li, Chow Yun-fat, and Michelle Yeoh frequently play action-oriented roles in foreign films. Hong Kong films have also grown popular in overseas markets such as Japan, South Korea, and Southeast Asia, earning the city the moniker Hollywood of the East. 340. At the height of the local movie industry in the early 1990s, over 400 films were produced each year. Since then, industry momentum has shifted to mainland China. The number of films produced annually has declined to about 60 in 2017. 341. Canopop is a genre of Cantonese popular music which emerged in Hong Kong during the 1970s. Evolving from Shanghai-style shadike, it is also influenced by Cantonese opera and Western pop. 342. Local media featured songs by artists such as Sam Hui, Anita Mui, Leslie Cheung, and Alan Tam. During the 1980s, exported films and shows exposed Canopop to a global audience. 343. The genre's popularity peaked in the 1990s when the For Heavenly Kings dominated Asian record charts. 344. Despite a general decline since late in the decade. 345. Canopop remains dominant in Hong Kong. Contemporary artists such as Eason Chan, Joey Young, and Twins are popular in and beyond the territory. 346. Western classical music has historically had a strong presence in Hong Kong and remains a large part of local musical education. 347. The publicly funded Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra, the territory's oldest professional symphony orchestra, frequently hosts musicians and conductors from overseas. The Hong Kong Chinese Orchestra, composed of classical Chinese instruments, is the leading Chinese ensemble and plays a significant role in promoting traditional music in the community. 348. Hong Kong has never had a separate national anthem to the country that controlled it. Its current official national anthem is therefore that of the People's Republic of China, March of the Volunteers. The song Glory to Hong Kong has been used by protesters as an unofficial anthem of the city. 349. 350. Despite its small area, the territory is home to a variety of sports and recreational facilities. The city has hosted numerous major sporting events, including the 2009 East Asian Games, the 2008 Summer Olympics equestrian events, and the 2007 Premier League Asia Trophy. 351. The territory regularly hosts the Hong Kong Sevens, Hong Kong Marathon, Hong Kong Tennis Classic, and Lunar New Year Cup, and has hosted the inaugural AFC Asian Cup and the 1995 Dynasty Cup. 350 to 353. Hong Kong represents itself separately from mainland China, with its own sports teams in international competitions. 351. The territory has participated in almost every Summer Olympics since 1952 and has earned 9 medals. Li Laishan won the territory's first Olympic gold medal at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. 354. And Cheung Kowloon won the second one in Tokyo 2020. 355. Hong Kong athletes have won 126 medals at the Paralympic Games and 17 at the Commonwealth Games. No longer part of the Commonwealth of Nations, the city's last appearance in the latter was in 1994. 356. Dragon boat races originated as a religious ceremony conducted during the annual Tun Eng Festive. The race was revived as a modern sport as part of the Tourism Board's efforts to promote Hong Kong's image abroad. The first modern competition was organized in 1976, and overseas teams began competing in the first international race in 1993. 357 The Hong Kong Jockey Club, the territory's largest taxpayer, 358, has a monopoly on gambling and provides over 7% of government revenue. 359 Three forms of gambling are legal in Hong Kong: lotteries, horse racing, and football. 358. Education in Hong Kong is largely modeled on that of the United Kingdom, particularly the English system. 360 children are required to attend school from age 6 until the completion of secondary education, generally at age 18. 361 362. At the end of secondary schooling, all students take a public examination and are awarded the Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education upon successful completion of the exam. 363 of residents aged 15 and older, 81% completed lower secondary education, 66% graduated from an upper secondary school, 32% attended a non-degree tertiary program, and 24% earned a bachelor's degree or higher. 360 for mandatory education has contributed to an adult literacy rate of 95.7%. 365. This literacy rate is lower than that of other developed economies because of the influx of refugees from mainland China during the post-war colonial era. Much of the elderly population were not formally educated because of war and poverty. 366 367 comprehensive schools fall under three categories: public schools, which are government-run; subsidized schools, including government aid and grant schools; and private schools, often those run by religious organizations and that base admissions on academic merit. These schools are subject to curriculum guidelines as provided by the Education Bureau. Private schools subsidized under the Direct Subsidy Scheme and international schools fall outside of this system and may elect to use differing curricula and teach using other languages. 362 at primary and secondary school levels. The government maintains a policy of mother tongue instruction. Most schools use Cantonese as the medium of instruction, with written education in both Chinese and English. Other languages being used as the medium of instruction in non-international school education include English and Putonghua, Standard Mandarin Chinese. Secondary schools emphasize biliteracy and trilingualism, which has encouraged the proliferation of spoken Mandarin language education. 368 English is the official medium of instruction and assessments for most university programs. In Hong Kong, although use of Cantonese is predominant in informal discussions among local students and professors, Hong Kong has 12 universities. The University of Hong Kong HKU was founded as the city's first institute of higher education during the early colonial period in 1911. 375. The Chinese University of Hong Kong CUHK was established in 1963 to fill the need for a university that taught using Chinese as its primary language of instruction. 376. Along with the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology HKUST established in 1991, these universities are consistently ranked among the top 50 or top 100 universities worldwide. 377, 378, 379, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University PolyU 380, and City University of Hong Kong, Situ, both granted university status in 1994, are consistently ranked among the top 100 or top 200 universities worldwide. 377, 378, 379. The Hong Kong Baptist University HKBU was granted university status in 1994 381 and is a liberal arts institution. Hong Kong Metropolitan University, formerly as Open University of Hong Kong, prior to 2021, attaining status in 1997, 382, Lingnan University in 1999, 383, Hong Kong Shuyan University in 2006, 380 for Education University of Hong Kong in 2016, Hang Seng University of Hong Kong in 2018, and St. Francis University in 2024, 385. All attained full university status in subsequent years. Most of the newspapers in Hong Kong are written in Chinese, but there are also a few English-language newspapers, the major one being the South China Morning Post, with the Standard serving as a business-oriented alternative. A variety of Chinese-language newspapers are published daily. The most prominent are Mingpao and Oriental Daily News. Local publications are often politically affiliated, with pro-Beijing or pro-democracy sympathies. The central government has a print media presence in the territory through the state-owned Kungpao and Wenweipo. 386. Several international publications have regional operations in Hong Kong, including the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, USA Today, the Yomiuri Shimbun, and the Nikkei. 387 for free-to-air television broadcasters operate in the territory, TVB, HKTVE, HOY, and Phoenix Television air 8 digital channels. 388, 389, TVB, Hong Kong's dominant television network, has an 80% viewer share. 390. Paid television services operated by PCCW offer hundreds of additional channels and cater to a variety of audiences. 391. RTHK is the public broadcaster, providing 7 radio channels and 6 free-to-air television channels. 392, 393, 394, 10 non-domestic broadcasters air programming for the territory's foreign population. 388. Access to media and information over the Internet is not subject to mainland Chinese regulations, including the Great Firewall, yet local control applies. 395.